Hi guys.
Festival.
We've been lied to about everything since we were born. You know that Earth is flat. That's alright. I'm not filming you. I'm filming Martin here. You know about them? No. Did you hear about Event 201? Event 201, organised by World Economic Forum in 2019, it was a planning event for the coronavirus pandemic. They did a whole worldwide, all these countries, 190 countries on the same day, same week, did this planning event. This is what we'll do if we have a pandemic. 6 months later, we've got a pandemic. And they all did exactly what they were told.
Nothing can be happy.
We need bugs in it, bugs.
Apparently.
Maggots and bugs and shit,
Yeah, well, we're pretty sure.
The Mac and shit like that.
They want to poison us, mind, body and soul. Mind, body and soul. Why? They never want you to know that you are the creator expressing itself. Because they're trying to steal God from us, as it were.
What's this CERN thing now?
Oh, there's
Another money soaker. You can't prove photon to me. You can't prove they're doing any of that. They want you to think they're opening things up, don't they?
Come in after me.
Oh man, they'd be coming after him or me before you. I don't know how bad.
They're a big ring magnet, but I don't think
like
it's
what we
anything
say.
to do with what they're saying.
I think they're opening things up.
They're telling you that they're opening things up, and reality is changing weirdly.
They always tell you because they have the camera back, see? They've got to tell you in other ways, hence the little films and all.
Multiverse.
The Simpsons.
Nah, they got atom smashers all over. They got one in MIT, they've had it there since the 60s.
Stranger Things, you've got
the only one.
Stargate
That's Project Montauk, Stranger Things.
I'm not buying it.
Project Montauk.
Too many soakers, bullshit. You can't prove any of it. It's just more pictures on the fucking internet.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And if you ever see it, it's Brian Cox is there doing his bit. It's like, yeah, that's really credible. I totally believe this is happening now.
No, I think the CERN could be an ISS. ISS, it could be like all smoke and mirrors. So.
It's all smoke and mirrors, but like with him, he's just like, he said, oh, my son's seen a boat go over the horizon. This is a scientist with apparently a PhD. I'm like, it's just
That's your best proof? Oh, that's what, what's it, ESA, European Space Agency, told me in Italy on the Globe Light Tour.
Yeah.
I said, what's your best proof? They said, the sun travels over our head.
Right, that's the easiest one to pick apart though, isn't it?
Yeah.
With perspective. You know, the plane comes up like that, but it's flying flat, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not dropping its nose either, is it? It's just like, so that just shows you how perspective works. And the sun's doing exactly the same thing as that plane, just moving away on the same track.
Yeah, that's...
To the horizon.
Yeah.
Away.
I kind of go with that. I also considered the possibility that the sun is personal to you.
Oh no, 100% definitely, yeah.
So that is it possible that, like we used to talk about a Pyrex dish, when you take the torch over the Pyrex dish, how that light can have the appearance of going down even though it's actually just moving away over the top. Because one of the things that I suggest counters that my experience of the sun is simply of something getting smaller and going away, is that sometimes I see it in the clouds as it's, near,
I know what you're saying. I know.
Setting, not setting time, but and it's like with the clouds right now for me.
Yeah, it's just there and it's just sat there. Yeah. No, it's definitely. Yeah, no, I think so. Well, a sliver to your feet just sort of proves a subjective experience because how can 2 miles of the beach go into their feet? You see, And I usually, local sun, I would say, local experience, consciousness making it.
What if the sun is like? You sort of got a guiding light, and the moon is the opposite, the negative of that, and the moon and the sun are both your sort of guardians, and they're here almost to watch
it might
for
just belong to souls, and just like a vessel for souls, and it fills up with souls. The light, could be souls, the lights, and then maybe it just reaches a point where then it just like turns black.
Well, how about if we were standing on a beach and we were let's say like 8 foot under the water, and we were watching the waves travel over our head, and each of us would have a crescent depending on where we were standing,
100%.
and both of us would have a rising as the wave approached and a setting as the wave went away.
That's interesting.
So in the wave
model,
in the wave model, you can imagine having both the setting and the rising for each person depending where they are.
That's brilliant. I like that. Yeah, I like that one. I sure one.
Yeah.
Very good. But ka-ching.
Yeah, so that's what I think. I think of it's a pulse or a wave that travels over the land, and each person, wherever they happen to be, picking up that wave, and that wave is sometimes retarded on a beach depending on the season. So it might be slower now or faster now in different parts of the place. You see, and it passes more quickly over you. You get a lesser day, or slowly over you, and get a longer day. but it's just one wave that's waving almost
I can feel
like
that ripple.
almost like an S wave that's coming over us, and that S changes its sine wave through the course of the year, and so people higher up the beach get the summer or the winter depending on the S wave and the position of it.
Oh, I like that.
Think
But
on that
they would
some
work like that as
Think
well,
on that,
wouldn't they?
yeah. Think on that some more. So yeah, and it's obviously it's an S wave in two. You've got the wave coming over your head, but it's an S wave that's coming
Maybe that's what
across
they're
the
telling
land.
you with Superman.
Yeah.
Maybe that's
yeah.
yes, it's maybe the message.
And they put the Superman logo and the Green Man logo and so on right there in the heart, right there in the chest, right there in the center,
Yeah,
which is where I
that's
think
it.
your superpower comes from, your heart, because love is the biggest power, most, or natural
Yeah, you've got
greatest power of all.
superpowers, I know.
Yeah.
I got superpowers.
So we release it from the heart, which is the center, the earth, the anagram for earth, and the heart, or the center, is the middle point of the Christian cross. And the Christian cross has a left arm and a right arm, just like you. It has a head, it has a sky, and it has the trousers, the hot, the magma, the lower stuff, and then it has the center. And I think we're meant to be in the center, not left wing, right wing, and two sheep, two goat. There you go. That's my quick down and dirty for Martin Liedtke.
We have an inertia plane.
Plane of
If we have
inertia.
a torus field, we have a plane, and it would
Yeah.
be around the solar plexus.
Yes. Yeah.
So that makes perfect
So
sense.
here's another way of thinking about that, right?
So if you've got the torus here,
Yeah.
here, then you would
Yeah.
have an inertia here on the
Okay.
solar plexus.
I'm going to offer you another way of thinking about that. Your natural position is actually lying down. You only get up because you have the musculature to lift you up in this environment. Your natural position is lying down. If I was to make a tree, if I was God, well, as a carpenter, I wanted to make a tree, I would fell the tree first, and then I would start to slice it in planks. Because that makes much more sense if you're wanting to make a tabletop earth or a tabletop.
makes
You-
a lot of
you
sense.
make it in planks.
Yeah.
So if you take the tree of life that we all have, and you've got the branches, the canopy up in the top, and the roots in the ground, but you fell that tree. Now you've got the North Pole, the canopy, over there in the distance, and you've got the South Pole, the roots, here in the distance. And you, therefore, your torus is emanating from here
I get that.
and going through you like that and coming out the 8. And the navel, which is where the seas are, the navel is the sea, the navy is with the center and all of this.
Yeah.
So,
I've looked into the navel,
So-
and it's significant.
yeah. So all of this is, I think that God is lying down, and maybe we're inside God's belly or in a cavity of God.
The
or something
Veda
like
sort
that.
of states more or less this, but laying
Yeah.
down is very interesting.
Yeah.
But that would be Brahma, according to the Veda, we're all living in his dream.
Right.
He dreams many kalpas, which are thousands of years, every night of this reality. And he is indeed laying down because he's asleep.
Yeah, laying down. And when I was on the DMT, I saw my higher self just lying there. You see?
I think it's definitely an
So
illusion.
and here's another thing. So a dream, yeah.
I think it's a dream. How do you know you fall asleep and not fall awake? And this is the dream state. How do you know which is real? How do you know?
Well, this one physically hurts. I'll say that it does physically hurt.
It does physically.
The
hurt.
dreams
Hiya.
are. Hi, folks. But so the lying down, the idea that actually, because whenever we depict a Taurus, we always depict it with man standing up.
Yeah, we
but
do.
let's consider, what if it's the Taurus is him lying down, us
Yeah, well,
lying
them
down.
Reiki mats everyone's laying down to do. You see them Reiki mats they
Yeah,
do?
yeah,
They're not
yeah.
laid down, put them on the
Yeah.
bed and they lay on it and do Reiki.
And when a chicken lays an egg, it lays on its side, the egg. The egg can't stand on its head like this. It has to be, it's
Right,
also a
okay.
blade spheroid, and it also lays on its side. An orange, when
Lay
it
it down.
falls from a tree, generally you'll find an apple and orange don't lay on their stem, they lay on their side,
so.
on their round. So I've got this idea that if you had to, instead of cutting the apple through through the equator, cut it top to bottom and let it fall open.
That's interesting.
Now you see the seeds are now the continents. If I magnify this up 1 trillion times, these are the continents inside, and the star pattern that if I cut it this way, if I cut it horizontally, that star pattern that you
It would
normally
be
see,
there, yeah,
that's
yeah.
actually riding over my head like this because I'm lying on my back, and the star pattern is turning like this. This star pattern is going all the way, perhaps around and under.
You got all that from cutting an apple. Yeah, fuck.
I've been looking at this for a little while, but that's where I come to, man. And it's like, and I can show you that with oranges
Wow.
and other things and go,
No,
wow.
it's interesting that they do. They do.
See?
That they land on their sides. That's
They
interesting.
land on their sides.
I still think we're upside down.
Well, so in the magnetic, if this is an electromagnetic,
It makes
bar
perfect
magnet,
sense to me that we are.
Well, so this is only about a month old for me, but I was like, shit, you know what? If this is a bar magnet, then if it's a 3D, because we only ever see it in 2D, but if it's a 3D spray, then it actually starts to form an orange. It actually starts to form the whole round. Whoa. Yes, because it's a spray all the way around the bar magnet, and that, if you turn that into an orange, it's now an orange or an apple lying on its side. So if I cut it through like that and open it up, what am I looking at? I'm looking at seeds inside of a pod. That could be the known
And it
earth.
matches with our idea of this place.
But it also means, yes, to answer your point, it also means that possibly there could be a way of living underneath the magnet and not knowing you were underneath it.
Well, it makes perfect sense that there would be another. If there's an inertia plane and we're on top of it or underneath it, then there's another side to it. It makes perfect sense.
And
to
it
me.
means that
and that would be inert, and they wouldn't be flying off that either.
Yeah, no, they wouldn't know
because it was inert.
And so, like the segments of the orange, the light show has to be rolling around the orange. If we've cut it through from top to bottom, and we're looking at lying on its side, the what they call the pith. The pith would be like our sodium layer, and that's carrying water. That's carrying electricity.
Yeah, sure.
That's showing you stars. So the segments of the
orange skin with the dent on the outside. The spots.
Yeah.
Is every one of them a star?
Yeah, that could be that. The dents and stuff that we're seeing are those stars, but those things have to be moving, and possibly moving like this all the way around. So it could be that the light show actually does this. If you lay on your back and had a light show run over your head, and imagine it going underneath your back.
I sometimes do.
This is you lying, if the top of your head was where the orange had connected or the apple had connected to the tree, now you've fallen on the floor and you're lying on your back, and all the fruit inside of you is turning in this way because it's water, it's moving, it's electric. Then I can see how this can create the universal orange, or and how it might all be, based on that electromagnetic thing. The magnetic thing.
Is this the whole thing with the orange?
The thing with the orange.
And it's 33. It's two opposing Tauruses as well. Turn them round.
Right.
And the 88.
Right.
Well.
Orange being 33.
Yeah. Right. It might be what they're trying to tell us.
Yeah.
Like Apple Records, for sure. We've the Beatles. They tell us the apple.
Well, when you slice that orange again through the center and you open it up and you trace the skin of the orange, you're tracing the 8. The two oranges.
Sure. Yeah. That's the whole thing.
So and that's how the energy is flowing, and this is our torus, and the reciprocating hyperboloid, which is like the hourglass part where it goes compressed.
Yes.
That's where it goes either down from the tree stem to the apple, or up from the anus of the apple, which we recognize, the little star from anus.
Where it would be situated.
And then where it pinches, Martin, this is what I wonder, is that where it pinches, it has to go through a singularity or a black hole in order for the light to become dense enough to become you. To become the Earth.
Interesting.
And so I'm suggesting now that people, I'm glad I'm saying to you, because if I put this out on YouTube, I'll get a few more views. But actually that our Earth is sitting on top of a black hole, and that as the sort of energy comes up, it squeezes, it's materialized, and then it starts to dematerialize back into light, and that's what's rising all the time. That's my thesis.
I like
Sit on that for a little while.
Are you going to present that?
I've done a little video on that on my YouTube channel, Trinities 4. Check it out.
Hi guys. It's nice watching. You can see all the stuff going on inside. It's nice watching. See all the stuff going on. Yeah.
Cool. I say to people that you are the spindle of your watch. You know, in the universe.
I was afraid you were going to bring up the watchmaker argument.
No, that you are not talking about the physical world, but in a spiritual sense, that each of us is like this spindle, is like the center of the wheel, and everything in the universe is sort of a relative to you. Aside from the land, as you move over the land, obviously you move from one place to another, but the lights and everything that are here all relate to you. They always center themselves on you. The moon will show you that. For example, on a very like a cloudy night with the moon out, you can see it's full moon tonight, right? There's a bit of cloud. Check it out tonight.
Full moon tonight.
Yeah, so when you go out at night and look at the full moon, you'll find that it's illuminating about a mile around the moon and a mile around you. But where your mate lives 10 miles away, it looks black.
Yeah, man.
Now phone him up and say, what's the deal with the moon? Is it black by you? Or is it, no, I've just got a little mile around me of illumination. Almost like a foggy night where the street lamps just illuminate the area just around them. So this is what we notice with the moon, is that individuals are seeing their own moon interaction with the clouds in their local area. This doesn't make sense in the models we give them.
I don't know how true that is.
That's my observation. I've also observed that the moon rolls counterclockwise,
Yeah.
half the speed of the hour hand of your clock. You can observe this for yourself if you spend the time. In the southern hemisphere, I was there for a year last year, it's going counterclockwise. I can't explain that to you, that's my observation, but it can't be explained by a model that I can offer you to say,
With the naked eye?
I mean, I'm seeing this with the naked eye. It's so easy to take a crescent moon. It's very easy to see on a crescent moon because you'll see it in England here, and then 6 hours later, it'll have done this. It'll have rolled, and now the crescent moon is you can sit on it essentially.
Yeah, but that makes sense.
Why?
If it's a crescent here, as it precesses, it rotates.
I've tried that experiment myself, but there is no rotation. If I was to offer you a smiley face, a round smiley face at the left-hand side of a football stadium, and run it across to the other side of the football stadium, same height, without turning it, just moving it across it, do you think that that face is now going to be upside down? Or do you think your eyes are going to...
At the distance of the moon, or?
Well, no, in my experience, the moon is only in my range of sight from, 120 degrees from there to there. So I'm giving you a scaled down version of that and saying I'm giving you a smiley face.
But obviously, if it was at the edge of a stadium compared to, how many thousands of miles away the moon is, there's going to be a difference in perspective, would you not think?
I think that...
A slight degree change at, at the length of that rooftop, across to that rooftop is going to be barely imperceptible. But when it's hundreds of thousands of miles away, that's quite a lot of distance to travel. It's like if you're sailing in the ocean and you've got a straight bearing and you're going to hit your mark, whatever it is, right? If you change it 1 degree, if the mark's 10 meters away, you'll still find the mark. If it's 10,000 meters away, you'll be nowhere near it.
Yes, I agree with you on that. But let's just say you were to take your hand like this and walk away from me. No matter how far away from you, so long as I could still see your hand, I would still know that your thumb was pointing upwards. It wouldn't have somehow rotated so that it was done like this. And what I'm saying is that as it's moving away, it's actually doing this rotation. You can try it with the handle of a coffee cup or whatever, to carry it across the space and go, yeah, I can still tell that the handle is pointing down, still pointing down, still pointing down. No matter, now I can't see it anymore, but up until I couldn't see it anymore, it was still
we're
pointing
talking about
down.
objects magnitude of order smaller than the moon, than a celestial body,
okay,
right?
so in science, what we do is if we can't go and sort of measure that all for ourselves, we have to do scale examples of that, right?
But
we
you have to
test
take
it
in
at a
some.
scale
But
level.
if you're doing a scale experiment, there are assumptions or there are things that you will say. This is a scale experiment, so some things like perspective, like parallax, won't marry up to what they would be if it was the moon.
I mean, parallax is non-existent in our world out there, isn't it?
You ever sat on a train and notice how stuff is closer up front? And
That's real.
parallax.
That you and I can test.
That's
but there's no
parallax.
parallax in the stars.
so what? That just property of existence stops when you get out of the
Exactly.
strata?
And
No,
so
you
that's
can't just say exactly. That doesn't make any sense. Either the rule exists or it doesn't.
No, well, the rule of parallax exists, but why doesn't it apply to stars?
Because they're really far away.
So that's not a rule then. So if some
No,
things are
it's-
much further away, they don't have parallax.
No, it has parallax, but it's so far away that the level of parallax that we experience, it's the same as if you look at the horizon on a train journey. The horizon doesn't seem to change much, but over the course of a train journey, of course it will, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at the bushes right beside the tracks, they'll change from millisecond to millisecond.
Absolutely.
And the further you
yeah,
go, the further you go.
absolutely.
So by the
And
time
things
it's at stars,
And the parallax is the twisting of things against each other, you know, because they don't hold. If there's 20 trees over there in a stand, then as you walk or drive past them, then their position relative to each other is changing all
if
of the
there's a
time.
copse
isn't
in
it?
a field, you'll reveal more of the copse as you rotate around it. Yeah.
Well, that too, but everything's sort of aligning itself differently as you move through parallax. You know, things are not the distance between something here, that star there, or that pole over there, is not going to be the same as we move in that direction. It's going to widen and then go narrower. That's parallax. I understand it.
Perspective.
I understand it.
Yeah.
No, not perspective. It's parallax. It's
I mean-
you know, it's how things appear to move.
I think parallax
Different.
is a phenomenon of perspective. It's perspective over time, perhaps.
Well, okay, I'll give you that. Your perspective on a thing will influence the parallax effect. You know, if I'm walking,
But
and
parallax
you're on-
doesn't exist. If I'm stood here and I'm looking at the what's it called, the disc or the ring, and the library and the building, because
not moving.
I'm stationary, right? But I still have a perspective
That's
of
why
it.
we say there's no parallax in the stars, because they're not moving. They're in a fixed position, and it's us that might be moving. You know, if we go for a different continent.
No,
or
but
somewhere.
when you're on a train, the trees aren't moving, the bushes aren't moving about. They're fairly static,
yeah.
but you still experience parallax, right?
Yeah.
And it
They're
extends
absolutely
further out
static.
to the stars.
Yeah. Now the stars are not static. Are
Well,
they?
no, they aren't, but they move in such orders of magnitude larger, and yet such humongous, unfathomable quantities of distance away that effectively they don't move, but
How
they
do you
do.
evidence that unfathomable distances away thing? Because I used to, by the way, I was a believer in all of the same stuff. Up until 7 years ago, at the age of 47, I realized that I can't actually test these things for myself, so I have to take them on someone else's authority. What is your...
I take all sorts of things at other people's authority.
Yeah, that's why...
I bought this bike off a dude who said I fixed it up. I don't know a lot about bikes.
Yeah.
I know the general, mechanical principles, but he said I fixed it up. It works fine.
Yeah.
It works fine. I took him at his word because he's a guy who repairs bikes.
Yeah.
When I go to my GP says, oh well, these are the options, and then we come to a decision together because he's laid out the facts as he sees them, and I say, oh well, that I don't like the sound of those side effects on that medicine, and we come to a mutual agreement, right? And the same with, the general scientific consensus is stars are quite far away.
Okay, so if this guy who sold you the bike, you get home and it falls apart in like 2 days' time, would you go back and buy another one for him?
No.
Okay. So for me, the globe model, this heliocentric model that I used to believe in, fell apart when a few things like the moon landing, about how we can see stars that we shouldn't be able to see, how, like, for example, if you were the sun, imagine you were the sun and I was the earth and I'm currently facing you and it's my daytime. If I did 180 24-hour rotations, where would I be?
180 24-hour rotations.
In 180 days, I would be here, behind you, at the back of your bike. But guess what? I'd still be facing that direction. That would mean our daytime and nighttime would be 12 hours apart from each other by that time. It would have gone off by 12 hours. You see that? Because my back at the moment is enjoying nighttime, right? It's behind the sun. It's back.
I see what you're saying. Like if you're a day you move there, a day you move there, a day you move there, and every 24 hours you're facing the same direction. Logically, it follows you're behind.
You're doing one rotation a day.
Yeah, no, I see the logic of that.
There's another one. There's another killer for that.
Hang on. I see the logic of that.
But you're only going to make an excuse, so I don't need your excuse.
Well, no, I'm going to give you a fair excuse, and the fair excuse is I don't know why that happens. Yeah. I trust that there is a reason. Perhaps the Earth precesses or spins to such a degree. From my knowledge, like I think is it Mercury, where the rotation and the orbit are such that it basically just bakes one side constantly as it goes around the sun.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, and Mercury is another one that's like, if it's inside the solar system model, it's closer to the sun than we are, then the only way we could ever see it would be by looking towards the sun, which would mean it would be never visible at night, and it would be sort of burned out by the sun itself. In fact.
Well, we see it as
a star.
We see it as it passes across the front of the sun.
Yeah, but there is something. If something passes in front of the light and you're in front of the light, then that thing's going to give you a silhouette.
We're not in front of the light because us, Sun, Mercury, as it comes around, we go, oh look, there's Mercury.
No, but that's if you're seeing the sun.
Yeah.
It's daytime.
By the nature of seeing it.
No. Well, I mean, so anyone who's seeing the orbit on the inside track has to be facing towards the sun.
If you can see the sun, it's
daytime.
Yeah.
So there's another thing about this is that if it was true, what I just said, this model that we've all got in our heads, if it was true, then let's just forget the 180 degrees thing, so that we're facing the wrong way. But the stars that you're seeing now, imagine in the night sky is everything that's in front of your face right now.
Right.
But in 180 days' time, it's everything that's behind your face right now.
Again, that we're still working off the principle that the Earth rotates in such a way that it lands in exactly the same spot every 24 hours, which a day is not 24 hours.
Okay, but
a full rotation of the Earth is, I think, it's slightly above or below.
But let's just say some of the buildings back there in the distance.
That's why we have leap years and leap seconds and all those stuff, is to account for that, the general, because we want a model that divides cleanly, but a day is not 24 hours. It's, sometimes it's 25 and a half, sometimes it's 23.7
we've never thought about this
something.
conundrum that I just offered about the 180 degrees. I never thought about that. You don't need to rebut it, it's fine. But I just wanted you to think about this when you're, like, right now there's buildings off in the distance that you can't see because they're behind your head. According to this model of where it's
Are we
for 6
debating
months of the
object
year,
permanence now, or?
Well, what I'm going to suggest to you is that it would be impossible for me to see the same stars for 12 months of the year if my range of view is limited for 3 months to this picture, for 3 months to this picture, for 3 months to this picture.
So what you've just done there, the 3 months, you're assuming that it translates between the different. Obviously, we see the sky.
Okay, but if a star is a million megatrillion miles away, as you believe, in that distance behind you,
right?
How does it align itself such that when I'm looking this way, in 6 months' time, I can still see it?
It'll be in a different place in the sky. I mean, that I've observed myself with a telescope.
Different place in the sky.
We've
but
been out,
remember,
and you can see, some months of the year you can see Orion's belt.
Yeah.
Other years you can't. Other months you can't. The Big Dipper is not always visible.
Well,
these things come and go across the sky, and throughout the course of winter, you'll be able to track a constellation as it processes across the sky.
You're absolutely right about that. And those constellations have stayed locked in the same place.
They haven't
no
actually.
parallax.
No, they haven't. Are you a star sign believer?
Well, I know that they're the zodiac wheel that's around you. You are the center of the wheel.
Anyway, so they're wrong. I think they were originally made. I can't remember who made it. One of the Greek philosophers.
What do they know?
Anyway, but they said, okay, well, this is Sagittarius, it's here, blah blah. So you're born between these dates. But actually, because it's not a perfect unity between, December the 1st, we know that this is exactly there. There's a slight creep. I think most zodiac signs are out by about 1 month. Okay. So most people, I would technically be a Sagittarius. I'd be a Libra or whatever. So it shifted, but that's just too much for people. It's just too complicated. So people just go, whatever.
Okay, so I know you got to go, but one thing, that star, right, that friend of mine that's say 500 meters up the street there, and I say to him, listen, in six seconds time, when I turn around, I need you to be over there so I can see you again at night. Do you imagine then in your mind that all of these stars that are billions of miles away are whipping themselves around at some mega speed in order to reposition themselves in a completely different part of the universe so that I can see them in 6 months' time?
I have no idea what you're talking about. The stars in the North Star stays in the north. Right?
Well, what I'm talking about.
In January it's in the north, and in July it's in the north. The North Star is locked in position, and the constellations around it, the map stays the same.
It does stay the same because it is a fixed roof. The stars are. That makes much more sense that you've got a disco ball that is turning and giving you the same pattern every sequence, every year.
Now say that you're inside the disco ball, and every tile has a dot on it, right? So every tile inside the disco ball has a dot. Now expand that disco ball 1 trillion times. If you move, 1,000 meters that direction, you're still going to see the same map of tiles.
Well, you're assuming that light travels infinitely far, and we don't believe that. We don't believe that. We can prove that. You can't evidence anything over the 80 miles. Impossible to see light. We can't.
Within atmosphere, yeah. Within atmosphere.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've never been out of the atmosphere. Can you prove?
Yeah, we have.
Prove that.
I mean, obviously you don't believe in that people have left atmosphere.
Well, no, because we can't be in a vacuum. We know that.
That's why we build spaceships and spacesuits and.
Have you ever seen a spacesuit go into a vacuum chamber?
Yeah.
With a man in it?
Not with a man in.
It's never been done.
Come on. My granddad used to work at NASA.
That means nothing to me.
Obviously, it means nothing to you.
There's people who work in medicine. They're good people. It doesn't mean they're not going to do things that could do you harm if they've been taught a certain thing. So
but here's the thing: if you put the suit into a vacuum chamber and the suit doesn't collapse, right? It is stable within a vacuum. You ever seen those things where they
So you wouldn't bother putting a man in a spacesuit to test that he was going to be okay in a vacuum chamber?
If it was vacuum safe, have you ever seen those things where they put an oil drum and they suck the air out of the room inside the oil drum? The oil drum's fine; it's still got regular atmospheric pressure, but because the room has a vacuum, the oil drum collapses, right? Because the oil drum is not built to withstand vacuum pressure, but a spacesuit is.
And why don't they put a man in there and show us them using it in a vacuum chamber?
You can watch live footage from the ISS, which you obviously think is
that's all on. Yeah, that's the stuff that's on TV. But the vacuum chamber that NASA have on Earth, they have 8 feet thick walls suits to stop that thing from imploding, and that would be where I would take my astronauts and say, this is where we're going to train. We're going to train in a vacuum chamber.
I can't prove it immediately right now.
They do this
I am
training,
certain there must be.
They do the training for the spacewalk. No, I know, I've looked for it, but there isn't. Okay. But they do training for the spacewalks in a swimming pool. You know that, eh?
Yeah, I do, because some of the physical properties are similar.
Yeah, exactly. So the suit's exactly the same.
Well, it would, I think it's fair to say that a hermetically sealed suit, an airtight suit, would also be a watertight suit. So I think there's no real harm in introducing a spacesuit to water.
Are you aware that at 30 meters underwater, you've got 3 bar pressure bearing down on you? So it's pushing in force. Whereas in space, it's a completely opposite, it's pulling out force.
You ever seen free divers?
Would you have your answer to my question?
Sorry, what was the question? Sorry.
The question is that we have
space is much more bar than water.
There's a lot more pressure coming. No, there's pressure going down in underwater, and there's pressure pulling out in space. So those are two completely opposite forces acting on the suit. So you would expect the suit to look different and behave different in those two different environments. And I would suggest to you that I'd go scuba diving at 30 meters in a wetsuit. I wouldn't go into a vacuum chamber in a wetsuit or a spacesuit, and no man ever has.
Well, I think again, I don't have the knowledge to hand to contest that no man ever has.
But you hear yourself. You're just wanting to defend the undefendable, which is
no. Hang on a second. You're arguing the unarguable.
Making a claim,
but we're coming to a centre ground where I'm saying, okay, I have not seen the lack of proof of people going into gas chambers, so I'm going to argue in a way that says, well, I don't believe that's true, but let's roll with that. Okay. Likewise, I don't have the immediate proof to say I'm sure there must be people who've gone into vacuum, but I can't prove it immediately. So I think we're just going to. You've told me anecdotal evidence, I haven't seen it firsthand, so we're going to meet in the middle and say, well, we both think different things on this, right?
We have different levels of, let's say, proof needed for me to believe, if you like, something. If my sister
do you think you require more proof or less proof than I do?
I require more proof, more evidence.
You think that?
Absolutely. As I'm offering you killer things.
Do you think the proofs we require come in different forms?
The proof is, well, look, let's just say scientifically, the proof should be testable, right? So you can make a claim all you like, but until I can test that claim, it's just a claim. I got $1 million in the bank. Prove it. I can go take you to the bank, open the account, there's the money, boom, job done, right? Now you've seen it, it's my account, etc., etc. So when it comes to $1 million in assets.
Prove my assets.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't prove my assets.
Well, you could, because you must have a lawyer, or you must have papers to prove that.
It is not within your capacity.
No.
To perform the same experiments that a multi-billion-dollar research facility would.
Yeah. So why wouldn't they do the one where they put a man in a spacesuit in a vacuum chamber? That would be a good experiment.
This is a moot point because you believe your point and you don't have evidence to hand. I believe my point and I don't have evidence to hand, so we can't really combat that point in an effective way.
My point is that we cannot put a man in a vacuum chamber.
And again, like I said, neither of us have proof.
We must do because you've been told we have. Well, I don't say that that's good enough evidence for me.
But what I'm saying...
If you and I had done that when we were kids, like, when we went swimming when we were kids, right? You could tell me I went underwater for 30 seconds, I go, I can believe that because I did similar things.
But within this conversation, we can't come to any kind of agreement because neither one of us has the proof ready to hand to prove our own points, right?
I have the proof, yeah.
Show it to me right now, show it to me.
That you can't exist in a vacuum chamber?
Show it to me right now.
Well, we can't. We've got scientific experiments, but we can't even get.
Show me them right now.
Well, pull them up. Vacuum chamber experiments.
See, this is what I mean. I'm not. Although I believe your points are wrong, I'm not going to say you're categorically wrong because neither of us have the evidence ready to hand to prove our own points.
I don't need to provide evidence of having outer space. See, outer space is the great claim. I say that there is no vacuum out there, but you're claiming there is a vacuum. So I say to you, show me the evidence that substantiates this fantastical claim that we have a vacuum without a sealed solid barrier, which would contradict thermodynamics. Show me how it could exist. Well, show me a gas canister that doesn't have an actual physical barrier to stop the gas from separating itself or going into.
Have you ever, climbed a really tall mountain or anything like that? And you notice the air gets slightly thinner as you get higher up. What is the explanation in that?
That's a reduction in the weight bearing down of this atmosphere is like anything else. Like we were talking about scuba diving, 3 bar, 4 bar, 5 bar.
So where
the
does it end?
opposite.
Is it an
completely
infinite?
the opposite?
Is it
on
an
the,
infinite
completely
spectrum
the
out there?
opposite. Listen to me.
No, I know what you're
You
saying.
might-
I know what you're saying.
Do
It's,
you know,
it's the reverse
so
ocean.
you know that I'm right.
No, I
that
don't-
actually
no, I didn't
we
concede
can.
that.
You don't want to, but the truth is that
Uh-huh.
we've got 0 bar at the ground at sea level, and 1 bar, 2 bar, 3 bar, and as we go up, guess what? 0.9, 0.8. It gets lighter and lighter, and the gases
so
get
in your
thinner
model,
and thinner.
obviously,
No, that's the reality. We
No,
can
you can't-
measure that.
No, you can't just say
We
in an
can
argument.
measure that. What, you
it-
can't put it in a test chamber? You can't put a test tube? You can't put 5
No, no,
different
I'm
gases
talking
and get
about
them to
the-
separate in their own layers?
Still, I'm talking
Are
about.
we? Can you not do
Buddy,
that?
come on,
You don't want to
come
hear
on.
that, do
no,
you?
No, you're not arguing on
They
a fair
separate-
platform.
On the
This-
platform,
you're-
they separate a
No,
level.
no, you're combative, and what I'm saying
Yes,
is.
because
And what
you
I'm saying
are
is, in an
very,
argument.
very, unwilling to hear that your religion.
I think
is
actually I have been
lying
quite
to
fair
you.
to you.
You've been very fair. This has been.
And what
very
I'm saying
enjoyable.
is, you can't in an argument just say, and therefore I'm correct. That it doesn't follow. You can't just say. You
you
can
mean
say.
that the science that shows fluid dynamics and gas dynamics is not right?
I didn't argue that point.
Really? Because
I
we can
believe in
take a
fluid
test
dynamics,
tube with different fluids in them, oil,
And they separate the different
and
layers
they
based on their
You don't want to
density.
accept that.
No. I just
So,
agreed.
so,
I just
so
agreed
that's
with you.
what I'm offering you. I'm saying that's the evidence. Why are you contradicting that evidence and saying it's something other than that?
I'm not. I'm saying it doesn't follow. The atmosphere works that way.
What? Why not? Because I've shown you in a small test tube how
So
there's got the
I
heavy
agree
gases
with
at the
you
bottom,
in that heavy
the light
gases
gases
and
at the
light
top,
gases.
yeah, and that we can actually measure that, and we can watch a helium balloon rise to 150,000 feet.
Uh-huh.
So we can see this in our reality.
What about those
but you
videos
don't
where
wanna
they
accept this.
where you take something from Earth? You ever seen the videos where it starts on the ground and it rises, probably in like a weather balloon or something like
Yeah,
that?
hot air balloon.
What happens when it leaves what I would call atmosphere? How does that fit in your
Leaves.
model?
How do you know it leaves?
Because you can see, you've seen in those videos, whether you think they're doctored or whatever, but it comes a point where there's no longer sky, where it's like a black expanse, what I would call space. What is that in your model?
Well,
And I think you have to say I'm being quite fair with my point there.
well, that's a fair question, but it's obviously it's a theoretical answer because I can't go there. So logically,
So you can't prove
let me
it.
finish. Logically, I say things get thinner and rarefied and thinner and colder. And eventually it's so cold up there. We know that at 30, 40,000 feet, apparently the planes say it's minus 50 up there. And as you go, and therefore it's hotter down below. Again, I'm just showing you what I see in nature, magma, and it's very hot down below our feet, but cold above above in the sky. And as you get colder, minus Kelvin kind of temperatures, yeah, then gases freeze. And there they create a crust. There they create a skin that is built almost like an ice wall, if you like. in the
There's sort
sky.
of a barrier at the top.
there must
Is that like beyond the blue in your idea, or the blue is the barrier?
I'm not sure about that. I think it's possible that there's water above.
Right.
That's my theory, that there's, whatever they say is outer space, and what they're trying to get to since Operation Fishbowl is actually
So what happens
water.
when you see the videos
Theory,
from
okay?
like Cape?
I'm honest about that.
Yeah, when you see the videos of like Cape Canaveral or whatever, where they launch the rockets,
Yeah.
do you think those videos are fake?
I used to believe them.
You,
I used to think
you
they
now
were
think
real.
they're like fake launches, or
They're real launches.
okay? And what happens to the rocket?
It goes up to about 50 miles maybe, and out of range about 100 miles, downrange. No one can see it anymore. But what we do see with those photographs that people have taken time-lapse is that we see it go up, and then we see it make a parabola, and then we don't see it anymore. What we're told is that it's finding its fastest way out into space. What we're saying is it's the fastest way to the Bermuda Triangle. And it's
And that's where
actually
it
just
disappears.
ditching it. And all it is a helium balloon with big rockets, a big firecracker. But NASA is the biggest buyer and miner of helium in the world. You say that like you knew it, but you probably
No,
didn't.
I do know.
You know that? Why would they need so much helium?
Helium's it's mainly for
'Cause it floats.
superconducting.
Yeah, so what if it floats and
But
they
if
can
you
use
want
it
to
for
superconduct
balloons?
something, like an MRI machine, the big discs that you go and they spin ultra fast,
Yeah.
those work only because of superconducting. And to superconduct them, you need a closed helium loop.
Okay.
That's part of the reason
How
why they're
much do
so
you think
expensive.
you need for that? Lots of it.
You need a lot of. You ever seen a helium flush on an MRI machine?
No, but have you ever seen Richard Branson's balloon that he went around the world in, a helium balloon? Did you ever see that?
No,
balloon?
I think I've heard of it.
The balloon, when it was full, at its full altitude, right? Because you know how it expands as it goes up. As it's full, it's bigger than this space here. It's like it's massive. It's bigger than a circus tent. You know that, right? And back in the 50s, they were using helium balloons to float satellites. And we believe that now in 2020, they're still using helium balloons to float 3 or 4 ton satellites into the sky for months and years at a time. And we've seen video footage of them crashing either on takeoff or on coming down to the ground of these things. So that's how we think a lot of that is done, and why they have satellite programs.
Just to catch you on something very quickly, you're saying we think.
Well, I've got some good evidence. Obviously, knowing when we live in a world of deceit and deception is very difficult. For me personally, I know that water is level. That was my baseline. Water's level, and that we're not moving. There's no scientific experiment. There's no scientific experiment that shows we're moving. So for me, those were my baselines. Everything else is, somewhat conjecture. But I'm pretty sure that, we've got some stuff close to right. So it's a bit of a mind bender, and I don't expect to, convert you away from your religion at all. It's your belief. You're entitled to believe whatever you want. But as I said to you right at the beginning, is that the story is really more about you and who you are, and that whatever creator there is, whether you believe in one or not, that actually the creator intended for you to come as you are and have this experience as you are. Whether it was meant to be lied to or not, that's another story altogether.
I think it can be very tempting to start, and I'm trying to say this in a way that doesn't just crap all over your beliefs. It can be very tempting to believe that everything is something else. Everything's being mistold or lied or something hidden. And I think my philosophy, whether or not that's all true, it is far simpler for me to just, and I know you're going to be like, sheep. It's just so much easier to go. And I know, I have a friend of mine doing a doctorate, in, he's researching solar panels, plastic solar panels, so they can bend and they're flexible and stuff. And he's the smartest person I know, and he believes these things. And everything else aside, everything else that I hold as proof, that alone for me is proof enough that I kind of just trust what he said, because I'm so busy, right? I have to form opinions about everything. I have to think about what am I going to cook, and I have to go to work, and yada blah blah. Personal relationships, yada. It's so much easier to find what you consider a credible source. So I have a credible source on that I get news from. I have a credible source where if I want to buy a new computer part, I have a guy who I know opinion matches up with mine, and I've tested stuff he's recommended before, it works. There's a proof there, that synapse gets built stronger, right? I have to do the same with science. I don't have the energy or time to go out and prove all of these things. So it's, Occam's razor is far simpler to... Scientists, generally speaking, are apolitical. They don't really care about the outcome of their work. They would much rather be proved wrong. That's way more exciting than just to be right all the time for a scientist. Way more exciting. If someone comes to them and says, oh, your proof that you did 20 years ago, that you've based all your research off of, actually, it's not quite what you thought. They go, fuck. And then a world of opportunity to reevaluate their work and come to something new, and in the eternal pursuit of truth and what is correct.
Have you ever spoken to anyone who's been in medicine, and they say how you've got to follow the consensus. You don't get to talk out of turn. And there's many industries that are like that, and science is one of them, where if a certain doctrine, you speak to people in quantum physics, they sneer at people in the Newtonian, some of the Newtonian stuff. They laugh at some of what they still hold on to, what they still believe. Earth is flat, ladies. You don't live on a globe. You've been lied to about that. You don't come from monkeys. You haven't evolved. You are the center of creation. You are the purpose, the reason. If there's a Jesus, the Jesus walks in you. If there's a God, the God is walking in you and intended to incarnate as yourself to have a great experience of life. This government, this religion, this science doesn't want you to know that, so that you will,
How did you figure it out?
Well, a lot of research. I had a lot of research, but I was an atheist at the age of 47, and then 7 years ago in 2015 I did DMT. Have you come across the spirit molecule?
Are you on TikTok?
No, not at the moment. I'm only on YouTube.
How many are wearing your YouTube video?
YouTube took away my channel at the end of last year because I was talking about coronavirus and how...
Am I going to be in it?
They didn't want you
You'll
telling
be
the
on my
truth,
YouTube, yeah. Yeah, they took
Why
my
wearing
channel.
no shoes?
Because we should ground ourselves. It's good to go barefoot sometimes. We're electrical beings. I know it's not as good as grounding in the earth or the beach, but we're electrical beings and we should teach ourselves to sun gaze very safely. When you can do it in the morning, you never need to wear sunglasses
Do you
if you
cut
do
your
that.
toenails?
I kind of pick them, but thanks to the question. I have been barefoot for quite a long time. Do you want to see the underside of my feet?
No, I'm okay.
No? Okay.
Yeah,
But-
go on.
There was only one go on.
Go on, yeah, let's go on. Go on.
That's not my feet, by the way. That's the dirt on the street.
Oh.
You know, if I was on the beach, my feet would be perfectly clean, right? If I was in nature, in the forest, my feet would just have some dust on it. You
Yeah.
know, they're not going to be. You were born barefoot. You're meant to be an electoral, energetic thing in nature, and more our society is rubber soles. We never go outside.
Shoes are pretty, aren't they?
Yeah,
No,
they are pretty.
nothing wrong
Look at
with
my
shoes.
Do you like them?
Yeah, they're beautiful. Really
Quite nice, aren't they?
No, and very trendy and so on. And I think shoes are brilliant, and for the right occasion, the right time, absolutely. But at the same time, a lot of kids, they never go barefoot nowadays. Oh, my feet can't handle the grass or whatever. But actually, you're meant to be natural. Can you imagine saying to a mama elephant or a mama lioness, or you're not meant to. You've got to wear shoes now. You take these chemicals in your body. You don't eat natural food anymore. Would you imagine saying that to them? They wouldn't. They'd have none of
I bet
it.
you're vegan, aren't you?
No, I eat meat.
Oh.
I think that we're meant to, because meat has got very important enzymes in it that your body absolutely requires, and so does animal fat. Not all animal fats, like a pig, for example, is not a good animal fat because they store their toxins in the fat. But other beef and stuff like that, absolutely. Fish,
Are you with these guys?
yeah, we're all together.
If you walk on stones, rocks, there's more than
My
one.
feet are quite tough. I mean, if it was really sharp and thorny, I'd put shoes on. And sometimes in town, I'd rather just wear shoes, but it's a hot day and my feet sweat
So
in
you
the shoes.
walk round literally with no shoes?
Hundreds of miles. And my baby boy, he's 5 years old, he's almost never worn shoes.
What do you do for a living?
At the moment, I used to work for the government. And when I found out these truths, I was like, I've got to quit my job. And I just go around trying to tell people the truth. I was in South Africa for a year, just evangelizing to people and saying, hey man, you know what your religion is trying to do and your science is trying to do, your government is trying to do, is they're trying to subjugate you. They're trying to get your consent, steal your consent, because you guys know that this is your temple, right? This is the temple of God. Your body is your temple. And if I liken it to like your house, this is your house.
Like lots of religious
This is-
stuff as
Yeah.
well. With, like, do you believe in God?
What's your YouTube?
I believe that we are the expression of whatever the creator is called. I'm Trinity 4 on YouTube. But here's the thing. If this is your house, right, and I come knock on the door, it's up to you to decide if I'm going to come and visit. And if you let me visit for an hour, have some tea, and you decide it's time for me to go, it's time for me to go, right? Because you know this is your house, and no one can harm you in your home. And in natural law, no one should be able to harm you in your temple of God. This is your temple of God, and no one should give you information and bad ideas and stuff like that, really. This world is full of information and bad ideas that are going to try and seduce you. Disney World.
Why would they want to do that?
Why would they want to? Well, maybe God wanted to. Maybe how's this for an idea? What if God wanted to set God's self a challenge and said, I'm going to come in a billion different forms and I'm going to make it hard for myself. I'm going to mislead myself. I'm going to misteach myself. I'm going to make it really brutal. But I'm going to see if I can come through that test. That's one version of why. Another version is that you are God's expression, that Eden was created for God to come and have an experience, taste itself, touch itself, have all of these experiences, yeah? And some entity decided to steal that. I liken it to a Minecraft game. Imagine that it was Minecraft and everybody's allowed to come in and mine whatever they want, use whatever they need and that kind of thing. But some guy got here before you, a few generations before, into the game. And he said, no, once you land here, once you're born here through your mother, you're going to sign a birth certificate that's going to give legal ownership of you to me. And we live in a system in which your birth certificate gives legal ownership to the Bank of England and the Vatican. They actually own you through the birth certificate. And they use the capital letter, and they use the capital letter's name as a way of tricking you to giving up your natural inherent right. Because what if I said you were the sovereign? You were the queen. You were the highest thing here. There was nothing here higher than you. So why would you have a government telling you what to do? It might be one thing to employ the gardener. It's another thing for the gardener to tell you can't go shopping anymore.
Yeah.
And that's the world we're living in. And more people just give away their breath.
You know when
They give
COVID
away
was
their
going
shopping.
around though, and you couldn't go to any of the shops and
Yeah.
stuff. Did you just stick to the rules, or did you?
No,
You didn't.
I knew already. by the data on the death rate in this country and any other country you look at. The same number of people died year on year. The same number of people. COVID is real, but it's a name given to a type of flu. And everybody gets flu every now and again, but your flu is not going to make me sick. Your drinking tonight, if you drink tonight, is not going to make me sick. The next 20, 30 years of your life, whatever you do, will not make me sick. And how I look after myself is not going to affect you guys. So I don't mind. It's up to you what you do with your life and your body. This is your temple of God. You ruin it, you take care of it. It's up to you. I'm not going to put Trinity 4. Use the number 4. Okay. It's my second channel. I've only got 500 subscribers. I'm just building up again. I'm just building up again.
Oh, yeah.
So here, take a flyer on ElectroMagnetic U. Because you are the center of the universe. And, this guy's religion is under attack. Don't believe anything if you can't prove it for yourself. That's all I'm saying. You can't go to space. You can't prove that water's curving. We don't live on a ball. We can't walk under a ball.
Thank you.
Have a lovely evening. Lovely to meet you. Have a fresh life, a super life. It is your life, and live it well.